There was a knock at the door, and Marcus knew his entire life might be about to collapse. His heart stopped. Lily stirred in his arms, still half asleep, her tiny fingers curled into his hoodie. Just minutes ago, he'd sent a message, a flirty, hopeful, almost innocent text to someone he thought might understand his loneliness. But he sent it to the wrong Sarah. Not a friend, not a date, his boss, Sarah Chen, the CEO. And now she was standing outside his apartment. He hadn't even had time to explain, to panic, to delete the message. He couldn't afford to lose this job, not with a daughter who needed therapy 5 days a week, not with rent due, not with the weight of the world sitting quietly on his lap. So tell me this, what would you do if your worst mistake knocked on your front door? But before we go any further, can I ask you something? Where are you watching from right now? Are you at home? On break at work? Lying in bed with your headphones in? Drop your city in the comments. I want to know. And be real with me for a second. If that text had gone to your boss, if someone like her was standing outside your door, would you open it? Or would you sit there holding your kid, pretending nobody was home? Let me know. And thank you for showing up to hear this. Let's walk through it together. Because Marcus, he didn't get to hide. The hallway was silent now, just the name Sarah still hanging in the air. But inside the apartment, the real story lived. Toys scattered across the living room floor. A tiny blue plastic fork poked out from beneath the couch cushion. The TV was still paused on Bluey. On the table, a therapy schedule with 3 sessions circled in red, a crumpled insurance letter, and Lily's speech report with the words "still nonverbal" underlined. Marcus lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in East Orange, New Jersey. Not the worst part of town, but the kind where neighbors mind their business and landlords fix leaks late. He didn't care about fancy. What he cared about was keeping the lights on and his daughter covered by the only insurance plan that paid for her occupational therapy. Marcus was 32, worked IT at a big corporate firm in Jersey City, barely. 3 write-ups this year. All attendance related. But when daycare calls you in the middle of a system upgrade and says your child is overstimulated and rocking under the table, you don't finish the code. You drive fast. He hadn't taken a real breath since Lily was diagnosed. His days were carefully mapped. Breakfast, therapy, daycare drop-off, log in late to work, lie to HR, pray she makes it through the day. Then pick her up, meltdown or no meltdown. Dinner, calming routine, bedtime, and hope she sleeps through the night. Most nights she didn't. Lily was 3, black hair, warm eyes, and a deep love for water play and soft lights. She loved spinning in circles on the rug, humming to herself like the world made sense that way. To Marcus it did too. He was mom and dad, employee and advocate, cook, janitor, therapist, and pillow. And he was tired. The kind of tired that sits behind your eyes and makes everything feel like it weighs more than it should. He hadn't been on a date since Lily was born. Not because he didn't want love, he just didn't have space for it. But tonight something cracked open. A moment of silence. Lily asleep in his arms. The night soft for once. His boy from the support group texted, "Try. You deserve to be seen too." So Marcus did something reckless. He reached for connection. He sent a message. A message he never would have written if he'd known where it would end up. It was almost midnight when Lily finally gave in to sleep. She'd had a tough day. Her new therapist had pushed too hard during a transitions drill. Marcus had spent the last hour on the floor with her, rocking gently, matching her rhythm, whispering that she was safe now. He laid her on the couch, placed her weighted blanket over her legs, and just sat there, sinking into the cushions like they might swallow him whole. Then his phone buzzed. A text from Andre. "Dude, you deserve to breathe too. Try dating again. Just try." Marcus stared at it, thumb hovering over the keyboard. He hadn't flirted in years, didn't even remember how. But he thought of her, the woman from the parent support group, the one who sat across from him last week while Lily built a tower of foam blocks on the floor. She'd told him her son loved lining up Hot Wheels. They'd laughed about sensory toys and bedtime fails. She was warm. She got it. So he scrolled to the thread. Or at least, who he thought was her. Typed the message slow. Checked it twice. You have the most beautiful smile. Would love to see it over coffee sometime. It wasn't slick. It wasn't game. It was him. Honest. He hit send, watched the message go through, and that's when everything dropped out of his chest. Sarah C., not Sarah from the support group. Sarah Chen, his boss, the CEO of his company, the woman whose email signature alone carried more weight than his entire salary. He sat up. His phone didn't move. His breath barely did. This wasn't just awkward. This was dangerous. Marcus had already burned too many favors at work. 3 late logins last month. 1 missed presentation, 2 emergency pickups from daycare during back-to-back security audits. HR had already warned him. They liked him, but not enough to break policy. And now, this. He hadn't even saved her as CEO, just Sarah C. from some early onboarding call last year. His hands curled into fists. God, no, 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 no. His thoughts ran wild. Would she report him for harassment? Would this count as misconduct? Was this going to be the thing that took away Lily's therapy coverage? He opened the contact, read the message again. You have the most beautiful smile. Would love to see it over coffee sometime. The words sat there, harmless in tone, but in context, they were dynamite. His screen lit up. A number appeared. Her number. Sarah Chen was calling. He stared at it. Just stared. The phone kept ringing. Then it stopped. He lowered the phone onto the armrest. He didn't know what to do. His stomach was tight. Lily stirred slightly, let out a small sigh, then settled again. The room was quiet, and then came the knock. One solid knock. Not impatient, not angry, but intentional. Marcus didn't move. He didn't speak. Another knock. Louder, then a pause. Then a voice low and clear from the other side of the door. Marcus, it's Sarah. His throat dried instantly. She came here. Not a reply. Not an email. She came in person. The company had a full employee directory. It wouldn't have been hard to find his address. But why did she come? Marcus stood there, barely breathing. Every mistake he'd ever made felt like it was collapsing in on this one moment. He looked down at Lily, her fingers twitching gently under the blanket. His entire world wrapped up in that little girl. He couldn't afford to mess this up. He had to decide, hide or open the door? Because either way, everything was about to change. Marcus opened the door, just enough, and there she was, Sarah Chen, not in a boardroom. Not behind a glass wall, but right here on his doorstep, under the cheap yellow porch light, looking every bit as composed as he remembered. But there was no clipboard, no driver waiting, no corporate armor, just her, plain coat, neutral eyes. Lips pressed tight like she hadn't decided how this was going to go either. She held up her phone. Did you mean to send this? No hello, no warning, just the words. Marcus swallowed hard. No, I mean, yes, but not to you. It wasn't for you. He heard how that sounded. It wasn't helping. I wasn't being inappropriate, he added quickly. It was just a mistake. From behind him, a soft sound, a hum, then a sharper one. Lily. She'd woken up. Her voice rose, rhythmic, repetitive. Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. Marcus turned just as she sat up on the couch, arms out, hands opening and closing, her eyes wide, searching. It's okay, baby girl, he said, stepping back inside without closing the door. She stood now, started pacing the couch edge, fast, humming louder. Her hands tapped against her cheeks, then her ears. Sarah didn't move. She just watched. Marcus lifted Lily gently into his arms, her body stiff as she arched, trying to regulate. She grabbed at his hoodie. Hey, we're okay. We're okay, let's breathe together, ready? He crouched with her, sat on the floor, rocked slowly. Look at Daddy. 1, 2. Good job. 1, 2. Her voice cracked higher, the hum turning sharper. Marcus kept going, calm, focused. We're safe, Lily. We're home. We're safe. She pressed her face into his chest, fists clenched tight in his hoodie strings. The room was filled with just them, their rhythm, their storm. He didn't look at Sarah. He didn't have time to, but he could feel her still there, watching everything, seeing it all, not just hearing about it in HR reports or parent leave forms. After another few minutes, Lily softened. She let out a long sigh, a cue Marcus had learned to trust. Her hands relaxed. Her voice dropped. He kissed the top of her head. "That's my girl," he whispered. Then he looked up. Sarah hadn't left. She hadn't spoken. But something in her posture had changed. She stepped forward, just inside the doorway, closed the door behind her, quietly, no judgment, no tension, just understanding. She didn't sit. She didn't make herself comfortable. She just stood there, eyes soft now, voice lower than before. "That was a lot," she said. "Does that happen often?" Marcus nodded. "Every day. Different shapes, same storm. And you do that alone?" "Every hour, I'm not clocked in." Sarah's gaze dropped briefly to Lily, now tucked in his lap, thumb in her mouth, then back to him. "I didn't come here to make things worse," she said. "I just didn't want to ignore what I saw. That message. It wasn't unprofessional. It was honest." Marcus didn't speak. Not yet. He wasn't sure what he was allowed to say. She took a breath, steadying herself. "When I saw the name Lily on your benefits form, it caught me. My brother. His name was Leo. He was autistic too." Silence. Not awkward. Just full. Then she added softer. "I haven't said his name out loud in years." Marcus held Lily closer. He looked at Sarah. Really looked at her now. Not the CEO. Not the woman from the company homepage. Just a sister who lost someone. And maybe still carried it. She glanced at the door behind her. "I can go," she said. "I just needed to see it wasn't a joke." He shook his head, not to tell her to stay, just to say he understood. She looked around the small apartment once, then met his eyes again. And then, without a word, she stepped fully inside. Just a few steps, enough to change the energy in the room, because from that moment forward, she wasn't just his boss anymore. And this wasn't just a mistake. Inside that home, the rules had just changed. Marcus didn't ask her to sit. She did it on her own, right there on the edge of his couch, beside a toy xylophone and a rolled-up sensory blanket. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. For a second, neither of them said a word. The room wasn't tense, just thick with things that hadn't been said yet. Lily had settled into a soft rhythm again. Small movements, familiar hum. Safe now. Marcus sat down across from Sarah, still holding his daughter like she was the anchor that kept the rest of him steady. Then he spoke. "I've been doing this alone for a long time. No drama, no performance, just truth. Every time I think I've found a groove, something shifts. Daycare changes policies, Medicaid backs up her paperwork, a therapist goes on leave. I ask for time, and HR smiles like they get it, but they don't." He looked over at her. "So when I sent that message, it wasn't just flirting. It was me trying to feel human again, even just for a second." Sarah didn't interrupt. She let him finish. Then she leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "When I read it," she said, "I didn't think you were being unprofessional. I thought—" She hesitated. "I thought it was someone trying not to disappear." Marcus held that for a moment. "I almost deleted it the second I saw your name," he said. "I'm glad you didn't." She looked at Lily. Not with pity, with understanding. "When I was 16, I used to carry my brother from the car to the house so he wouldn't run into traffic. He hated elevators, screamed when they beeped. I used to sing to cover the sound." Her voice steadied. She wasn't crying, just remembering out loud. "At school, I never told anyone about him, not because I was ashamed, but because I didn't think they'd get it. People only understand what they've survived." Marcus watched her. He wasn't nodding. He wasn't consoling. He was listening, because this wasn't about hierarchy anymore. It was two people standing in the same storm, just holding different umbrellas. She looked at Lily again. "She's lucky," she said, "to have someone who meets her where she is." Marcus took a deep breath. Some days I feel like I'm just trying to hold the pieces together. Like if I let go for even 5 minutes, everything will crash. Sarah's eyes didn't shift away. You're not wrong, she said, but you're still here. That means something. A silence settled again, but this time it didn't feel heavy, it felt earned. Then she said, almost like it surprised her, let me stay a little while. Not a demand, not a test, just a small offer, extended gently. Marcus didn't answer right away, because something had changed. This wasn't about damage control anymore. This was something else entirely. Sometimes the people we fear the most carry the same grief we've been trying to survive. And sometimes a message sent to the wrong person is the first thing that ever felt right. 3 days passed. Marcus hadn't heard from her since that night. No messages, no calls, just the echo of everything she said still hanging in the quiet spaces between work and home. Then, an email, subject line, HR review, required attendance. No details, just a time. Tuesday morning, conference room B. He stared at it. Didn't open the thread. Didn't need to. He knew what those meetings usually meant, especially after everything. That message, the late logins, the absences. The story always ended the same. Tuesday came, and he showed up. Pressed shirt. Lily dropped off early with a neighbor. Bag under his eyes, heart heavy, but posture strong. The HR manager was already seated when he walked in. 2 others beside her, neutral faces, folders stacked. He sat across from them. No questions, no words yet. Then the door opened. Sarah walked in. No suit, no clipboard, just presence. She didn't nod at anyone, didn't acknowledge the chairs. She walked straight to the front of the table and stood. Before anything's discussed, she said, I need the floor. The room paused. One of the HR leads looked like they were about to object, then stopped. Sarah didn't wait. This isn't about policy, it's about priority, she said. You have an employee sitting here who's doing essential work, both in this company and in his home. She turned slightly, not to look at Marcus, but to stand beside him. He's shown up on time with a daughter who needs more than this company has ever made room for. No one interrupted. She continued. The last time our benefits handbook was updated, the section on parental accommodations was 4 paragraphs long. No mention of neurodiverse care. No guidance for flex time based on therapy. Nothing for the real lives our people are living after 5 p.m. She picked up a folder from the table, opened it, and read aloud. Marcus Davis, 3 late arrivals, 1 missed meeting, 2 early logouts. No performance flags. No missed deadlines. She closed the folder. If this is what we're calling misconduct, we're failing. The room stayed quiet. Marcus sat there, jaw tight, staring at the table. Not because he was ashamed, but because he wasn't used to being defended like that. Not by anyone. And definitely not by her. One of the HR leads finally spoke. We weren't planning to terminate. Sarah raised a hand. I'm not here to argue intent. I'm here to propose change. And then clearly, with no hesitation, we restructure policy. We include flexible hours for parents of children with medical or developmental needs. We protect their jobs, not just as a courtesy, but as an investment. The boardroom didn't move. Sarah's voice didn't shake. And we stop pretending that survival at home doesn't impact performance at work. It wasn't just a defense. It was a line in the sand. An hour later, Marcus walked out. No warnings, no termination, no more silence. Just a thin manila folder in his hand, holding Lily's therapy progress. Her latest evaluation from occupational therapy. He stepped into the parking lot, looked up at the sky, then down at the numbers on the paper. Her fine motor scores were up. Her tolerance for transitions was improving. The sun was setting over the Jersey skyline. Lily's curls whipped in the breeze as she spun in a slow circle near the curb, laughing at nothing, and for the first time in a long time. Marcus breathed, not out of relief, but out of possibility. Something had shifted, not just for him, for her too. Sarah hadn't saved him. She saw him, and that changed everything. But this story wasn't over, not even close, Because sometimes the first door you open leads straight into the hardest test you've ever had to face. 3 months passed, not in a blur, not in a storm, but in slow, steady steps. Marcus's apartment looked different now, still modest, still quiet, but there was rhythm. There was breath. The dishes didn't pile up the same way anymore. Therapy sessions were marked neatly on a whiteboard by the fridge. The couch didn't feel like a war zone. It felt like a home. There were routines, real ones, ones that worked. Mondays and Wednesdays. Speech therapy. Fridays. Sensory play at the rec center. Sundays. The park. And lately, Sundays meant more than sunshine. Sarah came, not in heels, not in that perfect black coat, but in jeans and sneakers, with juice boxes in one hand and gluten-free crackers in the other. Lily's favorites. She didn't knock anymore. She texted, "We're here," and she meant it. Lily ran across the grass at Independence Park, spinning herself in slow circles, humming her favorite tune from the iPad. Sarah watched her. "She's getting faster," she said. Marcus nodded, sipping coffee from a paper cup. "And louder," he said, smiling, "which is progress. I'll take loud." They sat together on a bench near the edge of the field. Kids screamed in the distance. Someone's dog barked. But for them, it was still. Sarah leaned back. "You know," she said, "when I walked into your apartment that night, I didn't think I'd end up here." "You mean in Newark with juice boxes?" She laughed. "No, I mean sitting with someone who didn't need me to be anything except honest." Marcus glanced at her. "You didn't know how tired I was," he said. "You didn't know how tired I was," she replied. Another silence. Comfortable this time. Then he turned to her. Not rushed, not dramatic, just simple, certain. "You were right, by the way." She raised an eyebrow. "About what?" He smiled. "You do have a beautiful smile." Her face softened. Not polished, not performed. Real. She looked away for a second, then back at him. "So do you," she said, "even when it hides behind the weight." The wind stirred the leaves at their feet. Orange. Gold. A few catching in Lily's curls as she danced in the grass. Sarah stood. "I'll go get her juice," she said. "You stay. She knows you're watching." He nodded. Watched her walk toward the vendor cart, casual now, like this was always her life. And for a moment, Marcus sat alone. But not lonely, because everything had changed. Not in an explosion, not overnight. But in that quiet, patient way that love grows when it's built on seeing each other fully. The man who once feared missing a single meeting now knew that time, real time, was the most sacred gift he could offer. The woman who once measured her worth in results now measured it in eye contact, shared snacks, and unspoken trust. Marcus didn't just survive anymore. He lived with hope, with rhythm, with help. And for the first time in years, he wasn't afraid of what came next. He used to fear everything. The call from daycare, the insurance denial, the moment his daughter stopped smiling. Now, he feared nothing but silence. Because love, the kind that sees through the mess, through the chaos, through the sweat and the tears, that love had finally found him. And this time, he knew how to hold it. If this story reached you, if it reminded you of someone who's caring more than they say out loud, someone holding it together for their kid, their family, or just for the next hour, don't scroll past. Hit like. Subscribe for more real stories, because they're out here. They're real, and they matter. And in the comments, tag someone who needs to hear this. You are not invisible, because for every Marcus you see, there are thousands more. Fathers who haven't slept through the night in years, mothers doing 5 jobs with no praise, kids waiting for the world to understand them instead of fixing them. And sometimes the smallest kindness, a message, a visit, a second chance, is the thing that keeps their whole life from falling apart. So don't just watch, don't just feel something and move on. Share this. You might save someone today.